delusions, but you could also say these were political tactics to win, you know, lock her up and all that other stuff. It's just what he does. I sometimes don't think he believes in any of it.
You don't think like that. You can see through the guy, but no one could see that. The Americans only could see what dollar signs because you know, Trump had a lot of money, he was wealthy, they could only see dollars all over the place. He couldn't see the mental state of this guy. And now it's becoming very evident. And as far as I'm concerned, Trump, after he's resigned, he should be tried, you know, for crimes against humanity. He's killed, he's murdered so many people because he objected to wearing masks, as you know.
Well, yeah, and again, I would say, Richmond, that might be the case, but I think that would be very, very difficult to prove. From a personal point of view, you know, I don't care whether it goes now or at the end. One thing I don't understand about the American system is why, when you lose an election, you still got another month
into their own hands and bomb Amazon's warehouses. It has remained then, and that is a post I can cite if anybody is worried or nervous or feels like being posting lies or sharing lies on LBC. That exists as a post on the platform. It's been there for 24 hours. Lots of sensible people like me have reported it. It's still there. I know we have problems on Facebook. I know we have problems on Twitter. The biggest issue we face right now is the inconsistency around social media. You've got Ramzan Kadyrov, the Chechnyan warlord. He's still allowed to be on Instagram, and he's definitely killed, not Instagram, sorry, Twitter. He's definitely been involved in a ton of dodgy activity over his duration as leader in Chechnya. He's still on Twitter, but Donald Trump isn't. And then you've got the Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey, the bosses of the two largest social networks in the world, saying it's not safe for the US president to be on their platforms anymore. So it's an interesting time, but the Parler situation is particularly interesting because what happened first was Google removed it so you couldn't download it on a Google device, an Android phone, etc. Apple gave them a warning and said if you didn't put in sufficient content moderation within 24 hours, they would remove it from the App Store for iPhones and other Apple devices. They failed, so that got removed from there. Then, at the 11th hour, Amazon, who essentially power the web servers that keep Parler operational currently, said the platform had no place on its servers, gave them 24 hours notice that they were closing it down. So in about 12 hours time, if Parler hasn't managed to transfer over to somebody else's web services, which is nigh on impossible because you'd have to rebuild the whole app, it's going to go dark and close down completely. So if you have the app on your phone, you won't be able to use it as of 7 a.m. UK time tomorrow morning.
Right, what's so significant, as I understand it, from all this, and about Donald Trump being banned essentially and having his server knocked down and he's not allowed to use it at all? What we're saying here is that these companies like Facebook, like Twitter, they are now publishers and they are subject to the same sort of media laws that the rest of us are, rather than just tech companies. Is that right?
Well, this is the problem, because they've taken that decision in the last 48 to 72 hours, but this is the only time when they've made a decision like this. If you look at, many people would argue that the action with Trump that had come after the horse had well and truly bolted. If Trump has been able to use these platforms and spread these lies, I'm not calling it misinformation anymore, I can call it lies. I think it's clear that we can do that now. He's been spreading lies on all these social networks for 5 or more years, and all of a sudden, when either it became too late, when they realised something very serious had happened, or because Trump is about to no longer be US president, they've taken this decision to essentially de-platform him. Very few people get de-platformed. You've had a couple of people in the States. You've had, I can't remember his surname right now, but a guy who runs a thing called InfoWars. You've got Katie Hopkins. She got de-platformed as well. So everybody decided that her views were just not suitable for these platforms and not suitable for public conversation. And you go into a situation, Ian, and it's been one of my most interesting weeks of my 20-year career. I go and talk about this stuff online, and I get told I'm an enabler, or I'm supporting big tech, or I don't understand the arguments of free speech. I remind people that these platforms are privately owned. These companies can do whatever the hell they like if they don't like what you're posting. This isn't about freedom of speech. This isn't about having the right to do whatever you feel like. These are privately owned platforms, and but the big challenge here, Ian, is this is going to do nothing to reduce the suspicion and cynicism of some of these right-wing nutters who genuinely believe that the election has been lost. The thing that staggers me the most, Ian, is I don't understand how the number of people who've messaged me and said, I don't understand how you can have this view, Will Guyatt. Donald Trump was pleading for protesters to have a peaceful protest. That wasn't what happened. It's strange.
And just from a tech point of view, where can he go if Parler's shut down? Are there just endless sites where he can speak to his followers or not?
Yeah, it's a bit of a whack-a-mole scenario, because you can guarantee that somebody will be rubbing their hands at this and thinking, well, if big tech are going to close it down, we're just going to go to servers operated and run outside of US jurisdiction, and they'll post to to other platforms. And the thing you find, Ian, is he's likely to move to somewhere else. Parler was the most popular and the most likely one that he was to go to, but it was incredibly easy for the tech companies to take action, because like I said, deciding to make threats at Amazon staff and warehouse workers because they felt that their free speech was being taken away from them, it was very easy for Amazon to take the decision to pull the plug.
Thank you very much indeed, Will. That's our tech guru, Will Guyot. We're talking about Donald Trump. We're talking about what should happen to him next. Where does he go? 0345 6060973. Anonymous says, what should happen to Trump? He should stand trial, charged with terrorism and inciting hatred and civil unrest. His assets should be frozen, and those of his friends and family who support him must also stand trial. Ian, I hope Trump, says Abby, is never allowed to stand for office again, and if it takes a second impeachment, so be it. I remarked to my son, he was mad when I watched the second debate with Hillary Clinton prior to getting into office, and he's proved me right. He should be charged and subsequently jailed once he leaves office. Let's speak to Jean, who's in Felixstowe. Hello, Jean.
Hello, Ian. Thank you for taking my call.
Pleasure. What should happen to the president?
I'm a qualified psychologist and counsellor. I agree with a lot of what your psychiatric workers, psychiatrists said earlier. I'm really worried that if the coronavirus doesn't kill us all, that Trump, with his hand on a possible nuclear button, is a big threat. I feel that his power should be taken away from him now. In fact, I'm quite surprised he hasn't been assassinated by now, but that's another story. But I'm really worried about what happens to Joe Biden, because I feel that the Americans are such a unhappy lot that something could happen to him even at his inauguration. I'm very worried that, that someone could shoot him or something, because I think that they're that kind of society out there.
Well, I think the inauguration is interesting from lots of levels, not least the one, how they're going to practice some sort of social distancing. Will masks be enforced? Will they tell people not to turn up? I don't know whether Trump deciding he's not going to be there is disrespectful or actually quite wise. I've made up my mind, but it's worth watching, definitely. Thank you very much for your call, Jean. Let's go to Raj, who's a new caller in Bromley. What should happen to President Trump, Raj?
Hey, and so look, I think being an American in the UK, I don't like the guy, but it's a bit of a waste of time to go down this path of impeachment, because there's three things that are going to happen, right? Although he should leave, right? I think ultimately Democrats will impeach him in the House. The Senate won't, because it's a Republican run, right? And we'll have wasted a bunch of time.
Yep.
Right. The second is that you end up inciting the base even more. Let's say on the off chance they do impeach him, which would be good. It's not gonna quell his base, right? You're gonna incite them more. Something else will happen, guaranteed.
Okay.